Diablo 4 just had its last patch of the season, and today we're going to be talking about the final best builds for every class in the game. We're going to be starting with the best class, and then we're going to be finishing with the weakest class. And while we all already know what the best class is, the weakest class is actually quite interesting, because all of the other classes are very close. It's like Spiritborn is way ahead of everyone, then there's like a cluster of 4 classes, and then there's one class that's way behind. So let's start with, obviously, Spiritborn, which is the most broken class in the game. This build is completely absurd. It's able to use Banished Lord's Talisman to overpower every single Quill Volley. You know, of course, we're talking about the orange Quill Volley build, so it's overpowering every cast of Quill Volley. It's able to get insane damage multipliers from stacking maximum life. It has damage multipliers from stacking maximum resource. It's got all of these bugs and all these different interactions that just make the damage of this build absolutely insane. It's completely unkillable, insanely mobile, and does, like, 30,000 times more damage than the next best build. But obviously we're all sick of Spiritborn, and so the next 4 classes are going to be significantly more interesting. And remember, we're going to be going from strongest to weakest. So Spiritborn, speed farming 150s, hardest pits in the game, and the next class is at a 128. But before we can talk about that, we first got to talk about today's sponsor, Crimson Market. So Crimson Market is basically a Diablo 4 trading partner that also does a loyalty program where you can pay a subscription. And when you do that, you're going to get a bunch of benefits for the trade itself, but you're also going to be able to enter into giveaways. This month, they're giving away a Starforge PC, so definitely make sure you check it out if you're interested in having the potential to win a Starforge PC. And if you're looking to do some trading, also check out this website. With that being said, let's jump into the rank 2 build, which is Barbarian at a pit 128. Turns out weapon throw is actually pretty dang strong, and Barbarian is actually a few pit levels ahead of the next best class. This is because the incredible damage multipliers on weapon mastery skills. You have Third Blade, which removes the cooldown. You have the Herculean Spectacle that gives you a ginormous damage multiplier, giving you 35%, as well as 2 additional weapons. You've got Encroaching Wrath, which is another 80% multiplier. You've got Conceited. You've got all kinds of multipliers that really buff up this build and make it do a lot of damage. Because the Barbarian itself already has great base damage, having a skill that scales as well as weapon throw ends up taking this build to another level. So this build just wrecks. Now, Barbarian 128. The next highest clear is Sorceress at 125. This is quite surprising to me, at least, because, at the start of the season, we were looking at Sorc having another very weak season, but this new Firebolt build ended up being incredibly powerful. Firebolt is very strong because it's able to take advantage of basic attack aspects like the Moonrise aspect, which is a huge damage multiplier, but it's also able to take advantage of something like Flame Weaver, which is going to make you do, cast 3 additional bolts, and they're all going to do double damage. So this this unique is a ridiculous damage multiplier, and then you're able to run Shard. And Shard as well, of course, is another 200%. And what's great is the Flame Weaver itself has Firebolt projectiles cast twice, so even though you're using a unique weapon, you're not using out on that double Firebolt roll, which is a really big deal, actually. And so the end result is that this build just ends up doing lots of damage. And so it's, Barbarian 128, Sorc 125. Next up is the Necromancer at 120. The Necromancer is very powerful this season. In fact, at the start of the season, we were thinking it was going to be second behind Spiritborn, but the other classes have overtaken it. However, Bone Spirit is an insanely powerful build. It's a great build for speed farming. It's a great build for pushing because it's able to take advantage of Banished Lord's Talisman to overpower every cast of Bone Spirit, while also using Chance to restore a primary resource on its weapon to permanently have full resource. So you're able to constantly spam out these ginormous Bone Spirits that are critting and blowing up the screen and doing ridiculous damage. Now, the thing that really took this build to the next level was the discovery that Phasing Poltergeist now works with Banished Lords. This was not working before, but now that it's working, we have another 120% multiplier. Bone Spirit is by far the best Necromancer build, and it's one of the best builds of the season, being only a few pit levels behind the other classes. Now, what we have left is 2 different classes. We've got Rogue, and we've got Druid. If you've been paying attention, you already know what the weakest class is, but second weakest class is going to be the Rogue. Now, I say second weakest, but this class is up to a 119, whereas Necro is at a 120. So it's currently only 1 pit level behind Necromancer, so it's not that significant, but the build that we're going to be playing is Rapid Fire Poison. This build is going to be using a combination of Chill and Frozen, and getting loads of multipliers from that, and then using poison skills and getting loads of multipliers from that. And so you're kind of exponentially scaling because you're getting to double dip into both of those things, and then it's using rapid fire to spread poison like crazy. This build is very potent, and it's a fantastic pit pushing build. This build is a little bit weaker on the farming side, but its power in pit pushing makes up for it. However, it is ultimately the second weakest build in the game. However, the final class is well behind the pack. So remember, Barbarian 128, obviously Spiritborn speed farming 150s. We're not even talking about that class, right? It doesn't exist. Barbarian is 128, Rogue is 119. The next class is a 114. Druid is currently way behind the mark, but the best build is currently Lightning Storm. Now, obviously this build is not incredibly impressive, but, it's still able to do a pit 114. It's still going to be able to clear everything in the game. It's not like it's so weak that it's disgusting, but it's definitely behind the other builds. But obviously Lightning Storm is very powerful, in large part thanks to these gloves, which are going to give you crazy amounts of rings to lightning storms, and it's going to give you a very powerful effect where you're getting extra strikes and you're dealing extra damage. So this build ends up having great AoE for mob clearing, which is why, and also fantastic single target because it's able to concentrate its damage to do loads of single target, which is why it ends up beating out the other Druid builds, but it can't quite compete with the other builds in the game. So that's kind of a breakdown of the current metagame of Diablo 4, and as far as I know, this is going to be our last Diablo 4 build of the season. Just so you guys are aware, we are going to be covering PoE 2 like crazy. We are so hyped for PoE 2, but we are going to be going back to Diablo 4 when the next season comes out, and we're planning on covering both games. So if you're curious, there you go. But anyway, I appreciate everybody watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in PoE 2. Peace out, everybody.